And also, I mean, going even more in this direction and this persona description, of course, there's the clear explanation of, okay, there's not this one fits all approach, or there's one dashboard covering everything. Some people are saying, okay, we have this Swiss Army knife approach or whatever. I think it's definitely not working. We need to think about rather more smaller dashboards, even dashboards we're using for a little time. And that's why the standards should be implemented, because you need to increase or reduce the time of implementing the dashboard. You have to have them available really quick. And for that, of course, you need kind of a also process in designing those dashboards. And there was also one of those references of you in LinkedIn, and they focus on their enterprise dashboard process, and they somehow call it ridiculously effective. I think you also keep on talking about this Dashboard Wireframe Kit. There's also kind of cool video about that, also, or the rapid requirements for BI analytics. So probably they are all part of this process, or depending on the situation. But could you also describe more or less your proven process of how to make dashboards happen in a practical environment, and why it stands out more or less from your point of view?
Absolutely. So, if you're a analytics data professional and you hear, hey, you have to learn change management. Oh, you have to learn, the product approach. Oh, you have to learn user experience. Oh, you have to be good at design. Right? It's like, you're probably going to switch off. Like, come on. You could study each one of those for 4 years and still only know 1/10 of their subjects, right? So the idea of having a process is to have an anchor point for people to follow a path, to emulate some of the elements of those areas. They're not going to be expert in them, and they probably never will be. But there are pieces there that we can take. Like, if you're conducting a user interview, what are the 7 questions you have to ask? However, what if you only have 5 minutes? What are the 3 questions you need to be able to ask? What if you can't get any time with the stakeholder? What are you going to do then? So all of these things that that process would then handle, and really end to end. You don't have to do it all. If you look at that process, there's 21 steps in it. It's a lot of steps. If you want to knock it out of the park and you've got 3 months to build a dashboard, go for it. If you've got a week to build something, you're probably only going to do 2 or 3 of those steps. So it scales back and forth. Maybe you find like, hey, I can't interview anyone. Okay, well, maybe for the first iteration of the dashboard, maybe you'll just put out a wireframe of it and share that with them. And then iteration 2, you might say, hey, you remember last time around we shared a wireframe? I'd love to get your input on what a version 2 would look like. And gradually work on it that way. And like any change initiative, in the past, I've said to people when they ask me, how long does it take for you to build a dashboard? And I said, well, to effectively launch it, 3 months, 3 to 6 months. And usually that's kind of scoffed at. It's like, well, that's ridiculous. We build a dashboard in a week. I was like, well, yeah, but how's your adoption going? Okay, well, we don't measure adoption. Okay, well, that's a real problem. We need to be able to measure that. But if you talk to a change professional, and if you say to them, I can successfully manage change in 3 months and transition and shift an organization in 3 months, I mean, they're going to scoff as well, right? They say, no way. I mean, you need 1 year to 2 years for any major, transformation in an organization. So we try to find somewhere in the middle with that. So that's what the enterprise dashboard process does. But then I kind of got into the whole, board game creation to just challenge myself a little bit further. What can we do to gamify it further so that it's a little bit more fun? And because what I heard with the enterprise dashboard process is it's great and all, but if you're not confident or you're early in career, you might have a credibility issue with senior stakeholders, engaging the C-suite or, senior leadership team. So what can you do to use let's say, the art of distraction effectively to take the attention off you? Don't worry about how junior I am, or maybe perceived how incapable I am, or I shouldn't be doing this. Put it on something else. Board game. Put it on that. It's in this, when you have something you can point at that's not you could say it's an established best practice. You can kind of take that attention and maybe the disbelief and the skepticism away to a degree. Okay, look, we're going to follow a best practice for doing this dashboard. Is everyone on board with doing best practice? I've been flippant here, but like, no one's really going to say, No, we don't want to do a best practice.
We want to discover on our own. That's definitely not the case.
We want to do worst practice. So when you can kind of point at something and say, look, there's a best practice. It's an industry standard. We can use this. We don't have to use all of it, but maybe we'll start with elements of it. That's where I started thinking of the board game. And, just giving people that distracting element, take the tension away from them, put it on something else. And the first one I did was the Dashboard Wireframe Kit, and I did that on Kickstarter. And, Kickstarter has this whole process. And, how do you successfully launch a product? And then that got me thinking, well, how do you launch a dashboard in an organization? And that's where I came across that approach from Jeff Walker. How do you launch a product? Well, why don't we do that in analytics and BI? If the dashboard's a product, and of course it is, then how do we launch it? How do we get people using it? And so the enterprise dashboard shows you how to do that for dashboards in the enterprise. And then the board games are like kind of a fun way to distract your stakeholders from what you're actually trying to do. You're trying to affect change and impact them, and improve your career and improve the outcomes for the organization. So they're all in support of doing that.
And this process you described, you bring that into the organization, you implement it together with them, do you practice it? Or is it more or less that you're the trainer explaining the whole process and afterwards they are doing it completely on their own? Or is it a combination of those two described elements?
It's a combination, Guy, all of the above. And so I have online courses that, if you just want to learn this stuff yourself in your own time, go for it. I do mentorship with that. So an organization might come to me and say, hey, we got 20 BI professionals that need to learn how to do this. They would then consume the theory, and then I would be available for mentorship over a period of time. Or, another one is I just go do the work, right? Like organizations just have me come in and do that. I will say that's shifted over the years, whereas now I'm more in an advisory role. So I won't do as much as just getting my hands dirty with that, because I want people to scale it themselves. So if I'm doing that all the time, there's limited ability to learn, limited opportunity. So what I find works best is, people take the theory, they understand the training, and the process, they apply it themselves. Go apply it. It's not going to be an exact fit for any organization out of the box. They have to tweak it. They have to tailor it. They might find that, we already are really, really good at engaging the stakeholders. We don't need that. But we really suck at launching a dashboard. So, we can focus on that and de-emphasize other parts of the process. So it's really a mixed Kai. Like it depends, but I am more focused on the training and enablement these days.
Okay, and you described that as a particular fit to the enterprise environment. So, what is the enterprise environment from your point of view?
So it's, for me, where I find this most successful is any organization that has some sort of BI capability. Now that might be just one person. So we're talking organizations that have some focus on data and BI already. Not small, tiny organizations. So I would say that target audience is usually, the target organizations kind of mid-size is probably over 500 people, where they're at that level of scale and where they can also make that amount of impact. Not to say there isn't value to doing this in smaller organizations. It's just that people end up wearing more hats usually in the smaller organizations. And so I would say medium for sure, then to large scale organizations. If there's a COE or if there's like a community practice around data and analytics, really works well there where you can apply scale to it.